Hi, everyone. This week we celebrate the most holy body and blood of Christ. It is a white week because we are celebrating. This is the last special Sunday before we go back to ordinary Sundays. We had Advent, then Christmas, then a few weeks of ordinary time, then Lent and Easter, and several special Sundays, Pentecost, the Most Holy Trinity, and the Most Holy Body and Blood of Christ.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus welcomed the people. He spoke to them about God's kingdom. He healed everyone who was sick. Late that afternoon, the 12 apostles came to Jesus and said, "Send the crowd to the villages and farms around here. They need to find a place to stay and something to eat. There is nothing in this place. It is like a desert." Jesus answered, "You will give them something to eat." But they replied, "We only have 5 small loaves of bread and 2 fish. If we are going to feed all those people, we will need to go buy food." There were about 5,000 men in the crowd. Jesus said to his disciples, "Have the people sit in groups of 50. They did this, and the people sat down. Jesus took 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, looked up towards the heaven, and blessed the food. Then they broke the bread and fish and handed them to the disciples. "Give to the people." Everyone ate all they wanted, and what was left over filled 12 baskets. The Gospel of the Lord.
In this week's Gospel, we hear about Jesus feeding a crowd of more than 5,000 people with very little. His disciples were part of helping feed the crowd and also collecting the abundance afterwards. This miracle reminds us of Jesus' body, not only how he used his time on earth to help others, but also how he comes to the large crowd of all of his followers in the Eucharist. When we eat the bread in Eucharist, it reminds us of how that crowd also ate from Jesus as a miracle of his love. In this week's Gospel, it is late afternoon. It is almost nighttime and probably the time everyone is starting to think about what they will eat for dinner. It is amazing that there are more than 5,000 people who want to hear Jesus instead of worrying about what they will eat. Jesus is teaching and healing the crowd, and his disciples tell him that he should send the crowd to find something to eat. There are nearby villages where they can find something, but they won't find anything where they are. Jesus surprises his disciples by saying they should feed the crowd. They are surprised because they only have 5 small loaves of bread and 2 fish to eat. But there are over 5,000 people. How could 5,000 people share such a small amount of food? Jesus told his disciples to have the people sit down. Then he looked to heaven to bless the food and gave it to his disciples to hand out. His disciples must have realized they were on a special mission. Jesus had blessed the food, but they had to find a way to make it reach 5,000 people. Without their assistance, Jesus could not have reached everyone in the crowd. Imagine that. Even Jesus needed his disciples who had thought there was nothing they could do to help. How is Jesus asking us today to help in his mission, even if we don't think we have much or don't think anything can be done? The crowd ate as much as they wanted. It's amazing that there was enough for everyone. It sounds like 2 miracles. The miracle of abundance of such little food that became so much, and the miracle of the crowd for being content with what they had and no one looking to be greedy. 5,000 is a large crowd for everyone to be content and not greedy. Finally, the disciples gathered up the leftovers, which filled 12 baskets. There was more left than they had to begin with. And this is even after everyone ate. Isn't it interesting that not only the disciples played a part in the miracle of handing out the food, but so did the crowd by giving back what was left over. Now it was their turn to surprise the disciples by how much they gave back. although this story is told about the crowd and the food, it also reminds us of God's love and goodness. We can start with a little. Maybe we don't even believe it's enough. And then, with Jesus' blessing, it becomes not only enough, but extra. We may pray for God to bless our family, to make us more loving, and before we know it, not only are we loving each other, but we have so much love overflowing that we start loving all the people around us. And now that goodness comes back to us in the love from others. More than we can imagine and more than we had to begin with. God's goodness and the gift of love is not only enough, but surprising in how it is even more than we need. This week, I pray that each of us, despite our doubts, will bring our 5 loaves and 2 fish to Jesus to bless, get to be part of the miracle of giving it out, and then see the miracle of how even more comes back even after taking care of others.